The OnePlus One is a phone that rivals the HTC One M8 and Samsung Galaxy S5 in raw specs, but at a cost of just £229 or $299. That's less than half the price of the other two. As such, much of our early time with the phone was spent warily turning it around in our hands, trying to figure out where the compromises lay. So were there any? Well, yes, several in fact, but they appear relatively insignificant when weighed against that astonishing price tag. Usually when a cheap phone boasts big boy specs, it's the design that suffers. Not so much in the case of the OnePlus One, which feels great in the hand. The removable backplate is mainly made up of quality matte plastic, and overall, the whole thing feels like something of a cross between the Nexus 5 and Lumia 1520. It's not particularly slim or light, but it's not a brick either. Its dimensions make it only slightly larger than the Xperia Z2, which also has a smaller screen, and the OnePlus One is 3 grams lighter. Speaking of screens, the OnePlus One's 5.5-incher is quite the specimen. It's larger than the One M8 and the Samsung Galaxy S5, but has the same 1920 by 1080 Full HD resolution. Admittedly, it is a little less pixel dense at 401 ppi, but it's nothing short of sharp. Basically, if you think the OnePlus One may have cut corners here, think again. It's an IPS setup, which means it's clear and accurate even when viewed from an angle, and it's made by the very same people behind the One M8's excellent screen. The OnePlus One Cyanogen software is far more feature-packed than most Android skins, and that's largely because Google's OS still shines throughout. You won't find a huge amount of difference from first look, but once you dig down into the settings, you see where Cyanogen mod really comes through. Almost everything is tweakable, from the function of the hardware buttons, the colour and pulse of the notification light, the icons in the notification bar and the pull-down menu, the list quite literally goes on and on. Double tap to wake is also a massive plus on a live phone without a physical home button, although some of the gesture shortcuts are a little too easy to set off inadvertently. And because Cyanogen mod is so unobtrusive, Android 4.4.2 is free to do its thing unmolested, meaning the OnePlus One feels extremely fast. And this is exactly what you'd expect, with the Snapdragon 801 CPU and 3GB of RAM on board. It is a shame you can't replace the battery, especially when the back cover is removable, but this is a phone with stamina, and it's easy to see why with a 3100 mAh juice pack. Our standard HD video test put it ahead of the One M8 and roughly the same as the Galaxy S5. What does this mean? Well, in general use, you're looking at about a day and a half with the OnePlus One. There's good news and bad news when it comes to OnePlus One's 13 megapixel camera. Compared to the Nexus 5 or Moto X, it takes very decent pictures indeed. Its Sony Exmor sensor knocks the Nexus 5 out cold in fact, and our test shots revealed a reasonably capable camera. But there are also annoyances in basic usage, such as the positioning of the lens itself right at the top of the device, making it awkward to hold without getting your fingers in the way. We also picked up on a slight sense of sluggishness with the autofocus, but with all said and done, overall results were quite pleasant, particularly in good light. HD video also turns out crisp and clear, although sound pickup was a little harsh. The OnePlus One's performance to price ratio is one of the most impressive we've ever seen in a smartphone, offering Galaxy S5 performance for less than half the price. As for all phones, it's not entirely without flaw though. Sadly, one area where the OnePlus One falls behind is in its most basic function. As a phone, it's pretty substandard. While signal strength appeared strong throughout our test period, call quality was consistently poor, with volumes too low even when cranked up to max, and the receiver's voice dropping out altogether on some occasions. A spokesperson from OnePlus One told us that this issue will be fixed in future software updates though, so fingers crossed. The lack of removable battery and micro SD slot may also irk some, although with more than a decent battery life and a 64GB option, these certainly aren't deal breakers. Where did this come from? It's a question we're sure Samsung, HTC and Sony are all asking of the OnePlus One. If you're after a truly top-end smartphone that can be customised to the nth degree and don't mind accepting a couple of rough patches as part of the package, we don't see a better or cheaper alternative.